Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me? How about across the platform? There you go. All right. Hi there. Welcome. A lot of machine is not working right now, so but my name is Gary Dennis. I am a proud member of the New York City Guide Association of New York City. We have been around for 52 years, and no one has heard of us. Last year, I became the victim of being the chairperson of the NYC 400 committee for the Guide Association of New York. And guess what? The city drops the ball. It wasn't just Mayor Adams, it was the entire city. To get any sort of attention for this was like pulling teeth, all right? But to prove a point, I went and did this. There you go. All right, represent 400 years. All right, NYC 400, good for 400 years, not good for one fare. So for you kids, that's a subway token. All right, that's for the Metro card, subway token. All right, okay. Anyway, I'm blocking the view of this, says my daughter. All right, there you go. Okay, so I do a subway history tour, and it amazes me how many people live in this town don't understand how the subways evolved, all right? Also, why would they want to know that, all right? City of New York, things are built where they're built and how they're built for very few reasons. So one reason is city ordinance, right? Like Grand Central Terminal's on 42nd Street not because someone said, hey, 42nd Street's good street for train station. It was the city of New York saying you cannot bring a steam engine south to 42nd Street, right? But the other reasons why things are built, where they're built, and how they're built in this town: anger, jealousy, spite, and ego, and that's pretty much it. And a man named Russell Sage made a huge investment into the electrification of the streetcars. The next thing you know, he's freezing out a guy named August Belmont Jr. out of a railroad deal that netted Russell Sage and his friends a lot of money. So in revenge, this guy's going to push for a subway. The real push for a subway actually began in 1873 with a horse flu. Horses got sick. 1872, thank you. 1872, the horse flu, not good for the horses.
I'm talking about the beach pneumatic.
And then, I can't do everything. I only got 10 minutes. All right, so then we have a blizzard in 1888. The blizzard of 1888 killed 400 people in the Northeast. 200 in the New York City area alone. The largest snowdrift was 52 feet high out in Brooklyn, right? So with that, 6 years worth of electrical cable that had been hung up over the street gets knocked down, and the next thing you know, the city does smart thing number 4. I know I skipped over a bunch of smart things. I don't know if you give my list of 6 smart things, but I will do that eventually. So smart thing number 4 on my list of 6 smart things is no overhead power lines. Not in Manhattan, all right? So no overhead power lines leads to a problem because Brooklyn's gonna have streetcars before we do, right? They're getting rid of horses, which I know sounds bad the way I'm saying it, but think about it. Think about a Friday afternoon worth of traffic, what that looks like. Imagine if all those cars, trucks, and buses are pooping at the same time, right? Trying to get onto the George Washington Bridge. It's a nightmare. So the city wants a subway, but how is it gonna be financed? Because of all the corruption, kids, there used to be corruption here.
What?
Not anymore. Everything's fine now. And the animals will sing in the end, all right? But everything's good. But seriously, there was so much corruption, the state of New York had put a limit on how much the city's going to be able to spend on its own. And that amount was way below what a subway would cost. But August Belmont Jr., the man who got angry, figured out how to get it done. A public-private partnership. The city sells bonds to pay for it, but someone else will build it and operate it. And he started a company called the Interborough Rapid Transit Company. Are you going to show your tattoo? There you go. You're going to show your shirt. There you go. All right. I was worried you're going to show your tattoo. All right. Anyway, point is, Interborough Rapid Transit Company will, in 15 years, be in 4 out of 5 boroughs. They're in the Bronx by 1905, Brooklyn by 1908, and Queens by 1915, and that is kind of amazing, all right? So the Interborough Rapid Transit Company comes along, and this is the original route of the line, right over here. You'll notice it starts down here in Lower Manhattan, will snake up along here onto Elm Street, which is now Lafayette, onto 4th Avenue or Park Avenue South, and then at 42nd Street, you got a problem, and that problem is Grand Central Terminal or depot since 1871, you got a problem. So it's swung west, headed over toward Longacre Square, which becomes Times Square in April of 1904, snakes up along Broadway, and then eventually ends here at 145th Street on day 1. Everything above it will be added on very quickly. This branch here going into the Harlem Plains will open up in November of 1904, and the tunnel under the Harlem River into the Bronx opens up in January of 1905. That's pretty good. Then the biggest expansion mention this. Oh, this is the original subway car. This is not what the IRT wanted. These were made of wood, all right? That's not what they wanted. They wanted metal cars, but no company, even splitting up the order amongst 4 companies, could do it. They had to settle on composite cars. Look where the doors are. Look at this. This is like an old school railroad car. It's a learning curve. They learned as they went. In fact, one of the original cars, the seats were perpendicular to the walls, which is insane that you did that on a rapid transit line, but they were telling better, right? Now, stations are beautiful. This is my picture of the City Hall Loop Station. You can do this now legally. In fact, after all this is done, you get on the 4 or the 6, you take it all the way downtown to Brooklyn Bridge. Don't get off the train, go around the loop, and you'll see the most beautiful station in the system. A station that was shut down New Year's Eve, 1945. There was a plan back in the 80s. Who remembers Ed Koch? How am I doing, right? Ed Koch wanted to turn that into a restaurant, right? You put plexiglass walls at the platform edge and keep out the rats and the noise. That's Ed Koch, all right? You don't know from Ed Koch, right? There you go. All right, anyway, Ed Koch, his thing doesn't happen. The Transit Museum was going to use it as an annex, but because of security concerns, it was pushed aside, and then 9/11 happens, and then nothing's going to happen with that station. The entrance to that station is still at street level. Now you got to take a train to get there. They open up one door. So this is me. I'm taking the picture. All the other lucky people got on the Transit Museum tour. In fact, this tour, my daughter works at the Transit Museum. She cannot just put me on that tour. They do a background check on you, believe it or not. They will do a background. You have to give them your driver's license before they give you the ticket, all right? There, but stations were beautiful, and this is the 18th Street station, which is also closed. Out of the original 28 stations, 4 of them are no longer in service. So you have, of course, City Hall Loop Station, Wirt Street, 18th Street, and these are on the east side, and on the west side, 91st. So this station is 18th Street. You have an old school ticket booth with a clock like they're running like a railroad, right? And then you got a ticket shopper. This is going to slow everything up. Finally, we got turnstiles in 1923. Then we got this, art. There is art everywhere in New York City. Everywhere you turn around, there's a piece of art. And right here, there's art all over the original 28 stations, right? This process is called faience, all right? It's a fancy French way of saying double-fired clay. It's like when you're a kid, you went to arts and crafts, they told you to make an ashtray. They didn't tell you to make an ashtray, Dally. You're too young. All right, anyway, I made a million ashtrays. All right, the point is that you make something out of clay, you bake it, you get it back, you glaze it, you bake it again. Once you make one good one, you make a plaster negative. With a plaster negative, you can make as many positives as you want, and the glazed colors are applied with stencils, and they tell stories. They don't tell you where you are, they're telling you a story about where you are. Where are you? By looking at this, all right? This, unfortunately, this is a closed station now, but there's a new part of it, which is really boring. But this tells a story about a kid from Staten Island who bought himself that very specific type of sailboat. And that sailboat, he used it because one person can operate it. There he is, the one person. He's going back and forth between Manhattan Island and Staten Island with a ferry. That will lead to other boats and eventually other ferry systems and eventually steamships, and he got a nickname Commodore. Then he went into railroads and became one of the richest people ever walked the face of the planet. And then the fortune's gone, but it did give us Anderson Cooper, right? Because that's Cornelius Vanderbilt right there. That's it. All right. Good for him. All right. This one is at Wall Street. That's at Wall Street. That's a wall and a Dutch structure behind it. This is at 14th Street. It's telling you a story. There's also the same thing as at 33rd Street. Just swap out the numbers. It's an easy thing to cheat with. So this is telling you there's an armory there, that very American-looking eagle, and you got the shield there, right? Very American. This is one of my favorites. Actually, this is my favorite. Astor Place. And you'll be surprised how many New Yorkers are seriously animal challenged, right? So, yeah, what is that? Oh, those giraffe. All right. People thought it was a squirrel. People thought it was a chipmunk. I've had all sorts of people, but I did have an Australian couple on a subway tour. They had no idea what this is because they don't exist in Australia, but you all know beavers. There you go. Beaver pelts, huge commodity. This also proves my point. That proves my point. My dad said to me when I was a kid, the reason why they use this kind of thing in the subways is because they built the subways during the peak years of immigration. Absolutely true. Right? 1892, 1924, 12 million people come to New York, become Americans, and for some reason, 8 million go somewhere else, right? But the smart 4 million come back into the city. They don't all read or speak English, says my dad. This is going to tell them where they are. Well, this will definitely tell you where you are, but this won't, right? Where are you? Beaver Street? Petting zoo, bad zoo, or better yet, what is it, right? So the thing is that this is not, the story is that John Jacob Astor showed up in this country in about 1784. He went into the fur trade. He was making money, but he saw the future, and that future is real estate, and he took the fur money and became America's first millionaire. There you go. So it's telling the story. So this one is at 110th Street, obviously, and there's a story within that. The area from 60th Street to 110th Street, from Central Park over to the Hudson River, that is the old village of Bloomingdale, a corruption of a Dutch word, and then Valley of Flowers. And what kind of flowers are the Dutch famous for? Tulips, all right? So the tulips are all over the Upper West Side station. You got to look for this stuff, but it is there, right? So let's move on. There we go. This is what happens in 1913. Between 1913 and 1918, the largest expansion of the New York City's transit system happens. We have a line being extended north of 42nd Street, north of Grand Central along Lexington Avenue, south of 42nd Street along 7th Avenue. So the blue lines are actually elevated lines that no longer exist, and everything was owned by the IRT. Now, this is a little thing that I wasn't going to bring up, but I'm going to bring it up. You ever notice that IRT cars, a numbered line car only has 3 doors on the side, but a lettered line car has 4 doors? It's because they are longer and wider, all right? The track gauge, it's the same. It's the same all over the world. And there's a myth that August Belmont did this on purpose. It's not the same all over the world. I know that, but it's close. The United States, Canada, Mexico, and all right. The point is that you go from Canada to South America by rail. The thing is that it wasn't Belmont's decision to do. Belmont didn't do it to keep other trains off his lines. It was because he had taken over the L's. The L's go through Lower Manhattan, like Jason pointed out. It's a Dutch medieval village, right? You're taking trains through there, you need to have some very tight curves, which means your car's got to be small. So when the IRT took over the elevated lines, they decided to make everything compatible, and that was a huge mistake. All right? But this station that you're in opened up on July 17th, 1918. And this is how it's happening. This is the original route here. This is the Grand Central Station we all know and love today. That was the original Grand Central Station. Now it's the shuttle station. This was a plan for tracks to come all the way over to the 4, 5, and 6, but they realized they only built enough room there for 2 tracks. They couldn't make it any bigger. You got the turnaround loops right there from Grand Central Terminal. That's in the way. These stations, the post-dual contract stations, only have mosaics. So this one, I know this looks bad. All right, but this one is at Canal Street. All right, it's at Canal Street on the one train, and it's a church that has not existed in 150 years. It was called St. John's, and St. John's Place still does. The building on the other side there is at Chambers Street on the 1, 2, and 3. This building was 1 block south of Chambers Street. It was the home to Columbia University until Columbia College until 1857. Now, right above your head, once upon a time, was a massive theater. Cinema Treasures gives the seating capacity about 3,000. The building was built in 1910 by Oscar Hammerstein I, whose grandson will go on to write things like Sound of Music in Oklahoma, right? This guy built theaters and lost them faster than I can't even come up with a good analogy, but he lost theaters all the time. So this theater was built for legit. It became a movie vaudeville house, and then it just became a movie house, right?
They lost them because they went bankrupt?
They went bankrupt. So this one went bankrupt very, very early, right? And then it was taken over. And I zoomed in here so you can see what was playing. Norma Shear and Joan Crawford in The Women. So this is 1939. And this photograph, let me just go back one. These photographs are tax ID photos. So if you go online, go to www.1940s.nyc, I think is what the address is. I have it in my phone, I have it at home, I have it everywhere. So it's an incredible reference source for me. So there you go. Sometimes it's wrong, but more often than not, it's not. And there's the original entrance to this station on the uptown side. Didn't have a downtown side picture, but there it is. You can see it right there, staircase going down. This intersection is famous for something else. This theater used to be on the next block up, so kind of on 52nd Street, right? So the camera's facing uptown. So this is 52nd Street. I should point here, not on that screen. This is 52nd Street here. This is Lexington Avenue, right? Translux Theater, by the way, designed by a brilliant architect named Thomas Lamb. my favorite theater architect. But outside there, one September evening in 1954, this happened. Yeah, all right, so this is where this happened. 3,000 people showed up at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when they started filming the scene because they were worried about crowds because Marilyn Monroe was going to be there. They put a fan in the subway grates and she comes out of the theater with Tom Ewell, walks it by the grate, and the train goes by and it blows up her skirt. Because of noise of the crowd, they had to rebuild all of this out in California on a stage and shoot it over again because it just didn't work. But this is really here. Marilyn Monroe's experience with the subway continues. Look at that. There she is at Grand Central. And look at that guy saying, hey, look, that chick looks just like Marilyn Monroe. Look at that. All right, so this guy right over here says, hey, look, it looks just like Marilyn Monroe. All right, there you go. All right, this station is also famous for this photograph of Ice Cube taken back in 1990. There you go. And of course, when you are dodging an atomic holocaust, where are you going to go? 51st Street. This is a photograph of people during a drill. All right? Because this would not work, kids. There's no kids here, right? Okay, there you go. And, of course, art. So this is, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget Peter Manuel Goldman's Kelly was going home on the morning train.
And I think that's us. I think that's actually us, right here.
There's a staircase there.
No, in the back.
That's you?
I think that's
Oh,
us.
okay.
I think that's actually
All right,
this.
there you
Where
go.
we are.
All right. I think this is on the uptown side. But
No,
actually,
but the downside, he's saying behind the
oh,
mirror.
Behind the mirror. Okay, there you go. All right. So I think I ran out of slides. Yes, I have. But one more thing. Staten Island. A lot of people don't know this, how it got its name. All right. There are a lot of Italian sailors on Giovanni di Verrazzano's ship when they sailed in here in 1524. And there were so many sailors, they didn't speak, they were looking for land, right? And they couldn't see anything, right? There was a lot of fog. And one sailor finally said to one there, said, hey, Staten Island over there. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Thank you. You've been great.
Staten
Yeah,
Island.
now they're pulling me off. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Give it up for Gary Dennis. Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's really awesome.